welcome everyone. We're here talking to Maggie from Glimmers. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you. Could you give us a real quick rundown on the band and sort of your history and how you guys came to be?
Yes. So we formed Glimmers back in March of 2020. So during quarantine, we made the decision to form Glimmers. And before that, we played together just under my solo name. And so these wonderful boys that I'm in a band with now were my backing band. So we played with each other for about a year and then decided that it felt more like a family other than just a solo project for me. And we created Glimmers. So we're super excited that we made that decision.
That's awesome. I saw you guys pretty shortly before you became Glimmers at Rocketown in Nashville. My friend
Oh
Pierce
my
was playing. Yeah,
Yes, I love him. That's awesome.
yeah, so I saw you guys and I was super impressed. And then I saw you made the switch to being more of like a band thing. So I was curious, is that the main reason? Just because you guys clicked so well, you're like, might as well do the full band style.
Yeah, we thought that, and honestly, like it doesn't feel anymore like I'm bringing everything to the project. Like we all bring music and creative ideas, and like it felt more like a collective than just a solo act. And it was cool because it happened spontaneously. Like I called the guys over Zoom in March, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be solo anymore. How do you guys feel about changing this and changing our name and like releasing music under like a band project? And everyone was so excited. So we knew it was the right decision.
Yeah, I imagine that would be exciting because, I mean, you guys had great music before, but I imagine that gives them even more like unspoken permission to kind of give even more, which I think has been the case listening to y'all's newer stuff. It just keeps getting better and better.
Thank you. Yeah, we're super excited and we love collaborating. So it was a super easy transition for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of collaborations, I was curious, seeing as you're at least the primary songwriter, it seems from the outside, how do the instrumentals come together now that you've got like a full five piece?
Yeah, so what's cool about that is we were already collaborating even when I was solo. So, since the beginning, when I started playing with these guys, I would bring the basic structure and foundation of a song to them, and I would tell them, guys, let me know what you think, edit what you want. Like, I don't want to be the sole songwriter here. I want everyone to bring their own ideas, especially for each other's instruments. Like, I can't write on drums. Like I have no idea. I can't speak drum language. Like I don't know anything. And so I'm like, please, Jeremy, like write your own parts. Like let's work together on it. So usually I will bring the basic structure, like the lyrics and the music, like just basic chord structure. And then we'll work to tweak and edit it as we go, and everyone will write their own parts.
Nice. Is it ever so piano and lyrics you say are going first? Is it always then drums next or guitar next, or is it just totally dependent on the song?
It's kind of dependent on the song. Because sometimes I'll even write a song on piano, but then we'll try it more guitar based and it'll work so much better. So it kind of depends, but usually it'll definitely start with piano and then we'll add basic drum ideas and then work from there. So once we have like an outline of the dynamics of the song and where the drums change and all of that, then Downtane, our lead guitarist, will usually start with some guitar ideas and we'll kind of edit as we go.
Awesome, awesome. And that sort of leads me into, as I was listening these past couple weeks, just being really impressed and actually envious of the production of y'all stuff as well, because it has something about it that reminds me of when I was first getting into music, and something I was like, I don't know how they're making it sound this way, but it sounds larger than life. How are you guys doing that in quarantine? Because we're recording in quarantine as well, and it's there's advantages, but it also sucks sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Like, luckily, Alex Downtane, he has a home studio. And so we got everything mixed and produced in house. And he is so good. I'm so thankful for him. Because even like with songs that we've had for 2 years, because some of these songs are that old, we tweaked and edited, and Downtane like improved the mixes because he's learned so much more in the past 2 years. So that's something like that is his baby production wise. And so he spends hours like looking at synth tones and guitar tones and like making sure that the mixes are as strong as they can be, especially when so much time has passed. And then we're very lucky to work with a really great masterer too. And his name's Mike Collegian, and he works at Rogue Planet Mastering. So that like working with him and having the mixes just be pushed out there to like the fullest extent in the master, like has made us so happy. So
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, mastering is one of those almost mysterious feeling things that from the musician side, like I've got some audio skills and whatnot, but mastering is still feels like something out of reach because it's this subtle art. But I think y'all stuff is a great example of that almost indescribable extra level.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's cool because it's like a team effort, but Downtane, like I said, like he loves production and he just takes his time, and that is so, so important. I wish I knew audio production stuff. I don't, but he luckily has it taken care of. So
Well, as someone who's at least partially self-taught with some audio stuff, my best advice for that is always get a DAW and an interface. I use Logic. I think it's the easiest. And literally just turn knobs until it sounds the way you want. And that's really it.
Yeah, I went to arts college, and that was the advice I got for Photoshop. And so true. Like my professor, who I love, who's one of my favorites, he was like, press the undo button. Like just press buttons. Undo is always there. Like just try things and see how things work.
I've been having a similar thing with songwriting recently, and I'm sure you do this as well, where it feels like once you try something, and maybe it's just me being hypercritical of myself, but like remembering that you can just start over, like just try stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And like I'm a perfectionist too, so I can relate to that 100% because it's hard. And I've had like many ideas where I start a verse and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to continue it. But then there's times where I'll start a completely new song and I will go back to that little piece I wrote months ago and say, wow, this actually could fit in this, like a puzzle. So it's just about continuing to try things.
Exactly. Yeah. I love bringing stuff back around. We're big proponents of not really permanently cutting anything, just tabling it for now. Yeah. And speaking of songwriting and how you mentioned a lot of your songs have been around for a while, I've noticed you have a lot of sort of connection with the Masquerade in Atlanta, which is one of my favorite venues. I'm from Atlanta too. And I wanted to know your backstory with it because I have a lot of fun stories and memories at the original Masquerade.
Yeah, so I feel like I grew up there. I played there for the first time when I was 12.
Wow.
I did one of those, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but one of those guerrilla music battle of the bands, like the scammy battle of the bands.
I worked with a band who did one, but I didn't physically play it.
That is very lucky for you. But it was a good experience, and like it definitely helped me grow as a musician. But I remember playing there for the first time, and as a 12-year-old, I was like, I love this. Like, there's something special and like cool, and I feel like a rock star here. And so flash forward 3 years later, when I was 15, like that was when I really started playing music more seriously, relatively. But they posted a booking notice. They were looking for a local opener for, I think it was Courage My Love. And I knew of them, and like I was like, oh cool, they're like a female rock band from Canada, like maybe I should submit my music. I didn't have like any likes on Facebook. I didn't have any recordings. I submitted like 2 live performances, like at like a county fair. Like I had nothing, and they gave me the chance, and they were like, can you play 30 minutes worth of original material? And I said yes. And they said, okay, like you're on, like sounds great. And so that first show was super important to me because that was the point where it was a great show. I met the bookers, they watched my set, they were like super supportive and told me that they'd love to have me again. And so that was the moment where I thought, wow, I could actually maybe do this. Like this could be something that I can do. I can maybe open for bands and make friends and like have this be a part of my life. And ever since then, like I headlined at the old Masquerade, I've headlined at the new Masquerade. I met 3 of my bandmates now there. So it's just super special to me. And like, I feel like fate aligned, like in many situations there.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I love hearing that it wasn't based on your social media, which you guys are great at now, of course, but I love that it was very clearly based on your music and your effort and having been out there playing those county fair type gigs and whatnot. So that's the
Yeah.
perfect scenario, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. And it meant so much, especially me being so young and not knowing what to expect. Because, you know, I'm sure you've realized this too. Like, there's bookers and there's promoters and people in music that aren't the nicest to younger bands and, like, don't take them as seriously. And so it meant a lot to be taken seriously and to be supported and given that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd go one further and say a lot of bookers and promoters don't take anything seriously. So that's like an
Yeah,
extra bonus there. And
right.
I have other questions about the songwriting, but first, I haven't been to the new Masquerade. How is it compared to the original?
I really like the new one, especially Heaven. Like Heaven's really cool because it has 2 balconies.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's really big. I love it. I miss the old Masquerade. Like my heart will always be with 695. But it's all the same people working at the new one, so it feels like the same community. It's the same feeling that you get.
Yeah, that's the important part. Although I guess now you can't see from one floor through the floor all the way down to the basement anymore.
Unfortunately not.
Got that feeling of the floor flexing during the songs and being like, this is cool, but also terrifying.
Exactly. Oh, I miss that.
Yeah. So, and I love that idea of a balcony because Tabernacle is my other favorite venue downtown. And I
Yeah.
remember seeing the first time I ever saw All Time Low, it was All Time Low, We the Kings, and Hey Monday. And my friend
That's
brought
cool.
me, yeah. And we were on the balcony and they had that thing they used to do where they would do the curtain and they had the big backlit shadows and then they would drop it. But the balcony went behind the
Yeah.
stage. So we were watching them from behind the curtain and they were just like waving to us. And it was really funny because it
That's
kind
so
of ruined the
cool.
effect.
That's so cool though. I love that.
Yeah. And speaking of All Time Low, I've
Yes.
noticed that y'all's sound and writing style is very kind of second wave
Mhm.
pop punk and emo, that Mayday Parade, All Time Low. And
Yeah.
that's something that again that I grew up on, but it has somehow that secret sauce that has that very specific place and time feel. How do you guys go about doing that? Or is it just something that's natural?
Honestly, it's a little bit of both. Like All Time Low and their lyricism. Like Alex Gaskarth is my favorite songwriter. Like he has such a way with words and just coming up with lyrics that are super poetic and would work even if they weren't in a song. Like if they were in a poetry book, like they would be considered really, really groundbreaking and great. So I have always taken inspiration from how he writes. But for us too, we like to find the balance between like our pop punk influence because we were all emo kids and we still are, while also taking inspiration from pop music because we love that stuff too. So we like to find the balance of like being guitar driven and like having that feeling that we could play an emo night while also like experimenting with a little bit of synth or like electronic drums and stuff like that. So finding the balance is really important to us. So then hopefully we have fans that listen to, you know, stuff like All Time Low and Mayday Parade, but then even like, you know, New Paramore or like the 1975, like that type of indie pop stuff too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love all of that. And one of my questions actually I'd written down was, because you are a piano playing front woman, were you ever considering doing some more synthy based, like almost neon pop kind of stuff? Which that
Yeah,
answers my question.
yeah, we actually are. And we're in a demo process right now too. And we're trying to continue like finding that balance between the indie, like pop, neon, like synth stuff and guitar based songs too. So like we're trying to work on that balance even more because it's fun. Like we love experimenting, and like we don't just want to be a rock band. We want to hopefully have fans that like both sides of the spectrum, because I love that. Like I love all different kinds of music, so we're just hoping to continue doing that with whatever we release next.
Absolutely. I think you said it. Balance is the key, and having a broad sort of array of things to choose from. And again,
Yeah.
while we're on the topic of keys and stuff, do you have a favorite, like, since pop punk and rock is not necessarily as piano led as maybe back in like the 70s or
Yeah.
something, do you have a favorite of the few like front men and women who are piano, like Mayday Parade, Reliant K, any of those?
Lady Gaga.
Okay.
She is my number one, and like she's a huge reason why I continued playing piano. Because I didn't take lessons. Like I took one piano lesson and was so bored. I was so bored. I took guitar lessons and learned a lot through that, but I wanted to teach myself piano. And seeing her like stand on a piano in heels and still play and like do her thing, like that was super inspiring to me. And then definitely Mayday Parade, I would say too.
Awesome, awesome. And then that's surprising to me that you didn't have like lessons, because it seems like you're really good at arrangements. Because on social media, which is another thing I want to ask about, you do a lot of amazing covers and like really frequently. How do you do those arrangements so quickly?
Yeah, so luckily, in terms of like a theory standpoint, like learning guitar and the basics of guitar helped me with piano a lot. But also, being a musical theater kid, I like played not only pop stuff, but I would teach myself like more complicated musical theater songs and arrangements like that. So with those covers, I always try and kind of decompose like a pop punk song and make it like my own, slow it down, make it more of like a musical theater vibe. So that part of me comes into play there, since like I said, like I know how to play like songs from Into the Woods and like Sondheim shows and like that type of stuff, and a bunch of stuff like Hamilton songs I've done. So it's like kind of mixing both together. I really enjoy.
Yeah, I imagine that it's almost easier to do the pop punk ones because the musical theater is a much more like linear structure, so you have more to remember. So I
Yeah.
bet that's good practice.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's super fun, and like it just gives me another way to be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a weird pressure that we have now to be on social media pretty constantly, which there's lots of debate or ideas about, like, maybe it's not so healthy to always be on social media, but if we're trying to get our music out there, especially in quarantine, we kind of have to
Yeah.
be. So how have you guys approached that and been able to maintain such a strong presence?
Yeah. Well, first off, I drive my boys crazy. I I love the resources that we have, especially with TikTok. Like a year ago, I didn't know how to use TikTok. I was trying to figure it out, and when quarantine happened, I made that a goal of mine to say, okay, I'm gonna just try this and see if I can develop hopefully a following. And it's crazy that it's working out. I feel very fortunate that it is. But yeah, like we always want to make sure with our social media that we're consistent, like that's number one importance, but we're also having fun with it too. Like with our music, we hope that we spread positive messages and make people feel happy. So we want to do the same thing with the socials. So everything that we post, like we 100% really, really like, or it's something that we had fun making. Like luckily with the guys, like whenever we talk about content ideas and stuff, we never feel like, oh, I have to do this. Because if we did, like, what's the point? Like, what's the
Right.
point of like doing something that's fun? Because music is so much work. So we think, why not, like, whether it's making a behind the production video or it's me making a mashup TikTok, like, we always want to have fun with it. And so luckily we haven't felt like it's a burden to stay consistent with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And speaking of behind the scenes, I love production videos, so please do more of that. But
Yes.
I think we have a similar thing where the more mainline social media, your Instagram and Facebook, we try and be like more official or whatever. Whereas I don't know if you agree with this. I think of TikTok as just like throw it at the wall and see what sticks
I
because it's such
agree.
the Wild West.
Yes. And that's what's so cool about it. Like, there are so many rules with Instagram and Facebook and knowing your audience and all this stuff. And like TikTok, the best advice I got about TikTok was just try everything. Like, for a month, post one video a day, do new things. It doesn't have to be high quality. Like, it just can be fun, and then see what people watch the most and engage with the most. And that's how you find out what your niche is. And I loved that. And so that's what I did. And my first few videos that popped off a little bit more had to do with pop punk and musical theater. So then automatically I was like, okay, let's combine both. Like, let's have that be what my profile is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm newer to TikTok, and it took me longer than it seems like it took you to kind of be open to it. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's this whole idea of corners of TikTok and how my friend Dustin from Two Eyes Open, who I interviewed a while back, he
Yeah.
was talking about how TikTok is arguably the number one way to get more eyes on your band faster than any other platform, even though it's
Yeah.
less serious in a sense, which is scary,
Yeah.
but an opportunity.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like, it's so hard, and I have taken social media very seriously, especially with like promoting a song and like rolling out a song. But with TikTok, just do what you want. Like, have fun, and it's a nice break from that. Like, it's a nice break
Yeah.
from, hey, post a pre-save link on Monday, the song drops the next week, make a Facebook ad. Like, it's nice to step out of that structure a little bit.
Yeah. And something though, and this happens, I'd say equally on TikTok and the others, but you mentioned the whole scheduling aspect, which is something we all have to figure out. But I find that the posts that I spend the most time on get the absolute least views, and it kills me.
Yep. Oh, same thing. Like, usually I just do like the mashups in my room, and like I just use my phone. Like, I don't usually use like a special camera or anything, but it's when I make the long, like, this is my story videos, which I work hard on, and they get plays, but like the comparison between them is just like they're much lower.
Yeah, I would say though, if you haven't already, those that are a more like a deep dive into you guys, I would love if you like compile them and then also put them on YouTube. Even though the
Yeah.
format isn't great, there's no reason to throw that away if it doesn't
Yeah.
work on one platform.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we just started a YouTube channel, and we have some stuff that we want to throw up there. So I think that's going to be the move.
Yeah, and also with like you were saying, promoting a song, are you guys kind of committing to that just singles every couple week strategy, or are you thinking about doing a full length at some point?
Yeah, so with this EP that we're about to come out with, we're releasing a new song every month or so. Especially like during COVID, like new music Fridays have like made our weeks, like just having new stuff to listen to constantly. So we've been happy to put out music super consistently. But after this, like, we'll see what happens in the world, if shows start to come back, hopefully soon, kind of what will happen. But I really like the single approach, even as a listener too. Just to have something new every 4 to 6 weeks is really cool to me. But hopefully one day we'll definitely do a full length and do something a little bit more traditional. But it's been fun to just throw out new music every so often.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed is kind of the standard now, but something I found that's difficult about it, or even just making a full length, like how do you guys keep up with the non-music side of it, like making sure you've got the cover art and the liner, all the extra ancillary stuff? How do you do that in time for the regular releases?
Yeah, well, I'm a very type A person, so I will map out like, okay, the song drops in 2 months. We need the cover art a month before that, so then we can put it on Spotify. So I have like a whole schedule that I usually make. But what was cool about the rebranding was the music was ready. Like we just had to get it remastered. So right when we made the decision to rebrand, we had all of the music. So that gave us the opportunity to make the videos and spend our time working on cover art and finding an artist. And I love that stuff. Like, honestly, I love the artistic visual side of it as much as the music. Like, I love connecting both together. It's so fun for me. So I'm always thinking like 1 month ahead of, okay, we want to release a song in 2 months. Let's work on the cover art now so we have enough time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great to take advantage of that. I was curious because I was like, some of these songs I thought were older, but they were under the Glimmers page. Did you delete your solo page, or did you just re-upload to a second page and they're both there?
Yeah, so there were 2 songs that I had on under Maggie Schneider that I didn't want to let go of. So that was Don't Tell Me and Mixed Signals. And so we were lucky it worked out to where I just removed those from the Maggie Schneider page and we started over with the streams to Glimmer. So we didn't keep any of those streams and it was nerve-wracking for me. And I was like, oh no, like I hope that people will listen to them again. But it meant a lot because they exceeded where they were in 4 months rather than where they were in a year. So that was very filling and like meant a lot to us that people were listening to them even though they weren't new. But we also tweaked the mixes a little bit so they sounded a bit better. But I didn't want to let those go. So I'm glad that we could do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, yeah, it's just the people who are already your fans who would go back and listen to songs multiple times.
Yeah.
They're going to know and they're going to do that anyway, plus the new people. So I think consolidating all that was the right move.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we only released 2 of those under my solo name. So it felt good since we had already collaborated on everything else. Like we all wrote and played on the songs that we're putting out now. It felt good just to say, okay, we're going to put these out as the band.
Yeah, exactly. Just cement that it's a band and no one can question it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you've got a relatively tight schedule. Like you said, you've got a lot going on. So I've got a big final question that I always ask everyone. And could you mention or recommend 5 bands that you think that we haven't mentioned yet that you think everyone should check out, in addition to Glimmers, of course?
Yes. Oh, this is a great question. Okay. Number 1, a band called Glacier Veins. I don't know if you know them. They're so great. It's female fronted as well. Malia is awesome and has a great voice. I love Kaylee Spivey, and she was in a band called Small Talks that was more of like an indie rock band. Yeah. And so now she's doing like indie pop stuff. And she's really, really cool. Who else? I love Lauv, Lauv. He's incredible. We take a lot of inspiration from him. Who else? There's so many. Forever Emerald is a great band. I believe that's an all-girl band, and they're some of my friends. They're pop punk. And then my friend Patrick and Not My Weekend, who I'm sure you know of.
Yeah.
He's like huge on TikTok, and he's a goofball, but he's awesome. So I highly recommend those 5.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And based on those ones you just told me, if I may recommend to you, do you know the band The Foxies?
No.
Okay, so they're an awesome sort of indie pop rock band that our singer's best friend is the guitar player in, but they're female fronted, like I would say somewhere between Metric and New Paramore. So I think you would really dig it. So I want to recommend them to you as well.
That's a great band name too.
Yeah, right? It's like, how has that not been taken? But yeah, it's just perfect.
That's perfect. I love that.
They also have great videos too. So like you said, with the visual thing, it's really great to mesh those. But it's also really hard. I feel like it's kind of the mark of a professional band to be able to tie it all together like you guys do.
For sure. Yeah. The combination is really, really important, but I love it. Like, it makes it fun to connect with it all.
Absolutely. All right, and it looks like I'm kind of losing internet here, and I know you've got to move on to some stuff. But I just want to say thank you so much for being with me today, and hopefully we can get the whole band and check back in after the EP, maybe.
I would love that. Yeah, reach out to me and we'll totally do that. That sounds good.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go check out those recommendations you gave me. Everyone else should as well. And Glimmers links are going to be down in the description. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.